In a minor breather for the Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, the Supreme Court has quashed a CBI probe into extra teacher posts created after the state's recruitment scam. The court ruled that no inquiry is needed for these supernumerary roles meant to accommodate 25,000 SAC staff, but this is small relief amidst a bigger storm. Last week, the same court upheld the axing of these 25,000 jobs, calling the 2016 selection process tainted by fraud.
Some relief for Didi a day after she met SAC teachers who face an uncertain future. The Supreme Court has said there will be no CBI inquiry into the Bengal government's creation of extra posts to accommodate the estimated 25,000 teaching and non-teaching staff sacked from the State School Service Commission.
The Supreme Court today said that the direction of the Honorable High Court for CBI investigation against the cabinet, that was uncalled for. Therefore, Supreme Court has quashed that part of the order. Therefore, the CBI now may not carry on any investigation against the cabinet members for the cabinet decision, not for other things. And the court has clarified that all other directions of the court that will continue to be operative except the portion of CBI investigation. So far the cabinet decision is concerned, nothing else, nothing more.
Last week, the top court delivered a scathing condemnation of deep-rooted institutional decay in West Bengal, declaring the state's 2016 School Service Commission recruitment drive as vitiated and tainted beyond resolution by large-scale manipulation and fraud. The Supreme Court verdict annulling over 25,000 jobs in West Bengal, which was done by the West Bengal government, had exposed a complex web of corruption by the officials in the recruitment process here in the state. However, after today's verdict, it becomes unclear as to how the CBI will find out who vitiated this process at the official level. Though Mamata vowed to leave no stone unturned to ensure justice at the end of it all, it's the thousands of qualified candidates stripped of jobs who seem to be paying the price for no fault of theirs. Honest teachers now face uncertainty and at worst unemployment.
जा नहीं पाया क्योंकि स्टूडेंट के पास मैं खड़ा होकर क्या बताऊं। स्टूडेंट पूछेगा सर आपका नौकरी चला गया, क्या आप पैसा दिया था किसी लीडर को, क्या आपका नाम फ्रॉड लिस्ट में है
না দেখুন যতক্ষণ না আমার টার্মিনেশন লেটার আসছে ততক্ষণ পর্যন্ত আমার স্কুলে যাওয়ার আমার রাইট আছে। যদিও কোর্টের অর্ডার হয়েছে কিন্তু তার তো একটা প্রসেস থাকে, সেই প্রসেসের আগে পর্যন্ত আমার স্কুলে যাওয়ার রাইট আছে এবং আমি গিয়েওছি।
While the Supreme Court has granted certain relaxations to the untainted candidates who wish to get back their job, the bigger question remains, will those behind this criminal activity be punished? And why do teachers who actually appeared and through hard work got this examination sit for a re-examination? And what is the guarantee that the next examination process will not be vitiated? With GD Shankar, this is Rashide for NDTV Kolkata.
Well, joining us now, Nalin Kohli. We are joined by Manojit Mondol. He's a political analyst, supporter of the Trinamool Congress. Kapil Sankla, lawyer in the Supreme Court. And Joyanto Ghoshal, the senior editor. Thank you all very much for being with us. Nalin, let me come to you first. So, quite clearly, there is some relief for Mamata Banerjee. There will not be a CBI probe, at least not at the moment. But is that where this entire argument stops? Because what the Supreme Court did say a few days back is that this entire 2016 recruitment process was tainted beyond resolution. There were manipulated OMR sheets. So, it doesn't end over here. There has been blanket condemnation of what has taken place in terms of corruption in Bengal, right?
So, Vishnu, I must tell you that there's a legal part to it and there's a political part. And coincidentally, I'm dealing with something similar in the state of Assam for the state of government, prosecuting people who had illegally got into the service similarly. So to just explain to your viewers, the law is settled in this aspect. if the grain from the chaff, that's how the judgments say, can be segregated, which means if you can identify the people who have entered or done the examination with a taint, entered into service with taint, if you can segregate it, then the whole examination or selection process need not be scrapped. However, if it is widespread and it is difficult to segregate the grain from the chaff, then the examination process goes, all appointments are cancelled. Now this is a long line of judgments through Punjab, Haryana, different states it's happened, and it applies equally whether it's to school examinations, college or recruitment. So therefore that's the legal position. So when there is an argument made, for example, even if it's a sympathetic argument that there were people who were not tainted, who had tried to give the examination, it doesn't work if the entire system or selection process or examination process is tainted and you can't segregate the grain with the chaff. That's the law. Now coming to Bengal, what in effect is that there are approximately 24,000 supernumerary posts that were created. The people selected exceeded that number to about 25 odd thousand. And then there were these large-scale complaints of manipulation of the examination process. So the High Court scrapped the entire process. Now that led to two issues. It not just scrapped the process, but it also raised questions on the cabinet.
Right.
When you come to the Supreme Court judgment, in effect, the scrapping has been upheld, which is what the settled law is. But in effect of the comment with regard to the cabinet, understanding that our constitution creates a separation of powers between the judiciary, the legislature, or the political leadership in this case, the executive, and the media, which is the fourth estate, you therefore don't comment on it. It's with that aspect. So now on the political part, obviously the West Bengal government has much to answer. And obviously it creates a huge taint on the functioning of the West Bengal government, Ms. Mamata Banerjee, because her own minister, a close confidant of hers, Mr. Partho Chakravarti, was arrested. And wards, some 16, 18, 20 crores, if you recall those visuals, of cash had been found with his associates in their houses. So there was an evidence of corruption. That's the larger issue. So the Bengal government can't hide behind the judgment. On both counts, in terms of the selection and the corruption, they have a huge taint on them. On the count of the functioning of the government, in terms of separation of powers, there's separate issues, so they can't mix the two and escape or try to escape from the taint.
No, but just Kapil Sankla, come in on this, on just one of the points that Nalin mentioned, that the law is very clear. If you are unable to separate the innocent from those who are not innocent and are therefore corrupt, then the entire system needs to be put aside and this process has to be done afresh. That may be what the law says, but is that necessarily fair? Because there are people who put their life savings away to try not to get this job through corruption, but to prepare for the job, to travel for these examinations, etc., etc. They've started working in these jobs. They say, where will our students go? Are we not looking at a larger, monumental, system which is unfair for those who are not corrupt by any definition?
Well, you're right, but then who decides? That's a matter of investigation, isn't it?
It is.
That's what the investigating agencies, that's what specialized agencies, CBI et al. Decides after due investigation, after they prosecute the guilty. And in this case, that is exactly what is going on. You have to understand that there might be few innocents, but the rot actually started from the top. And this rot is what the Honorable Supreme Court noted and spoke about. And therefore, under the circumstances, there are two parts to the entire issue. One part is about the scam of 25,000 plus jobs that were manipulated and given to their own people, which is a matter of inquiry, investigation, and which is being done. The second aspect is what has been done inside the cabinet or what has been done under the aegis of the governor. That is protected under the fundamental rights. So there is a fundamental immunity that has been granted. And therefore, the Honorable Supreme Court said that, listen, as far as the corruption in the appointment of the teachers is concerned, it merits an investigation that should go on. But as far as what happened in the cabinet or what was decided in the cabinet has an immunity that cannot be washed away, because that's a fundamental aspect of our constitution. And what has been decided by the governor, again, is a fundamental issue that is protected by the the law itself, and there is an immunity in that. So you also have to decide that merely because few people, unfortunately, had worked hard for the job does not mean that you can now kind of wash away what has been done by the powers that be. Because if that is an argument, then you would actually have to visit Bihar again. You would have to visit UP again. You would have to visit Haryana again. And in Haryana, you would recall that the minister in the political family actually faced criminal prosecution. The tutelar head was in fact arrested and in custody for a number of years. So therefore, this is not the case here. In this case, all that is being said is this corrupt mean, this illegal mean, what has been done wrongly has to be investigated, and that is a separate part of it. So I don't think there is anything wrong in that.
Okay. Monojit Mondal, 2 points. Firstly, again what Nalin mentioned, that Mamata Banerjee cannot be protected by the Supreme Court today saying that, look, there doesn't need to be a CBI investigation, number one. And number two, it's all very well for Mamata Banerjee to say that she will fight for the eligible teachers, but with the Supreme Court upholding the cancellation, that's just essentially political rhetoric, right? There's nothing that she can really do.
I think the legal part is very clear, and I'm not an advocate. These two are practicing lawyer in the Supreme Court. But look at their faulty argument. The judgment is clearly stating there are tainted teachers and untainted teachers. On the basis of what? On the basis of written submission made by the School Service Commission, the appointing or the recommending authority. Written submission is a long written submission of 36 pages. I do have that written submission, and you understand the meaning of written submission in the court of law. It's clearly stated that these are the untainted people, and these are the not tainted people. About 4,000 of them, the School Service Commission could already identify. Based on that, the judgment is also mentioning tainted and untainted. And your reporter also reported that. So I want to ask these honorable judges of the Supreme Court that, my lords, when you could understand these untainted people who have some concession, it is clearly stated in the judgment itself. Then if they are having some concession because they are untainted, then on what basis the advocate is saying that the grains are not separated from the chaff? It is very clear in the face of the judgment. And number to come to the criminal investigation, there is another part, the civil investigation and the criminal investigation. The criminal investigation is on for 2.5 years. 4 or 5 people, including a former minister, he is in jail. I want to know, has it come to a logical conclusion? The answer is clear, no. Then on what basis, without hearing the untainted teachers, on what basis Honorable Supreme Court have taken away their livelihood? Livelihood means also right to life. Life and livelihood is complete infringement upon the Article 21. And I do believe if these honorable lawyers from the Supreme Court, they just shrug off their political hat, they must understand that without hearing these 20,000 people who are being referred to as untainted, their livelihood has been taken away. This is a kind of civil capital punishment, sans hearing. And this is a fit case for review. This is a fit case for review,
hold on.
Judicial review.
You speak very strongly.
You have to understand this.
No, we understand. And I think you've raised, Monojit, we cannot have a monologue. You've raised important points. I'm trying to get an answer.
You had 10 minutes of monologue between two of the friends from the court.
I am trying to get an answer from them to your questions.
I'm not an advocate. I am countering it. They want fact.
No, I am trying to get... Monojit, I'm not shutting you down. I'm only trying because I need to structure a discussion to get an answer from them to what you are asking. So let me take that to Nalin.
Yes.
Nalin, he makes an important point when he says that it's not enough for the Supreme Court to say that all these jobs need to go. The words tainted and untainted have been used in the context of these teachers, and therefore it is incumbent upon somebody to actually separate the two.
It has already been done.
So in fairness, I can't really hold Monojit Mondal guilty of his legal illiteracy because he's not a practicing lawyer. and he hasn't had the opportunity to read the judgments over several high courts and finally the Supreme Court. Now, certainly I can get into that academic discussion, and it's a useful discussion, but the fact of the matter is, this is how the law is. Now, it does not change because the West Bengal government or its political functionaries have a certain view. That is the law, and that's how it will operate. That is the exact law, that if you can't segregate the grain from the chaff, you will cancel it. The use of the word tainted and untainted is part of several judgments. This is not the first, this is the last in a series of judgments. The fact of the matter is, why were these OCR sheets destroyed? Why was the evidence destroyed? What was that 16, 20, 25 crores cash doing in the West Bengal government? Now, let me also tell another point. Let me say, this whole argument, which is also again brought up, the criminal case hasn't concluded, so you have to wait for the outcome. In fact, in many cases that we do on a regular basis, and you have an officer, for example, who is on whom there's a disciplinary inquiry, they take the plea based on one or two judgments to say, if I am in a criminal case, you must wait for the outcome in that before you treat me or try to investigate me under the disciplinary process of the government. It doesn't work like that. That is not how law does. It can be made as a convenient argument. The fact is they are different. In this particular case, it had to go because there were large-scale appointments that were not as per the system. The government of West Bengal is duty-bound and also morally bound, and also for its own protection, is going to take the argument that no, everything is not dirty.
Okay.
Because after all, they are facing with a mess which is their own creation.
Okay, Nalin,
but
hold
how
on
will
for
that
a
change
second.
the law of the land?
Okay.
It's not going to change
Let me
because
just
somebody
go-
says we don't know our law.
1 second. Let me go across to Jayanto Ghoshal. Jayanto, the larger issue of Mamata Banerjee's being accountable in this particular case, the BJP's assertion that she should be jailed for this mess, ultimately, that the Supreme Court's finding, points to systemic fraud under her watch. Isn't she on a distinctly weak wicket in terms of accountability, if not the law?
Vishnu, thank you very much. First of all, at the outset, I must admit one fact that Nalin Kohli, very old friend of mine, he's a senior lawyer, renowned lawyer, and he has the legal teeth, whatever he has said. And broadly, I don't disagree also. But the problem is that I am a journalist, and Vishnu, I need this minimum favor, that I am not a representative of Trinamool Congress. There is Trinamool Congress spokesperson. It is true. It's a never denying fact that I have a good relationship, personal relationship with a lot of BJP leaders. And Mamata
Okay, Jayanto, we get that, but what is your point?
I want only I don't want to take much time, but it was needed to explain this position. The important thing is that politically, it is a very disadvantaged Mamata, no doubt of it. And this situation, but today, the court, what observation they have made, maybe there is some debate whether what is the clarification of the judiciary's verdict.
Yes.
I am not going into that legal details, but I want to mention only one thing, that politically, this scenario, you can demand the resignation of Chief Minister and Mamata Banerjee chor hai.
Yeah.
That is a popular slogan. But CBI and the court has not indicted Mamata Banerjee for this corruption issue.
All right, okay.
There is corruption issue. Partha Chatterjee is in jail.
All right, so
CBI
she's not
has
been
done
indicted
it.
is the point that you're mentioning. We are also joined by Habibullah, an assistant teacher at a high school in Nopara, and who's lost his job. What are you going to do now? Because it appears that there is no option. Legally, you are out of a job. Do you believe that you have any chance of recourse, legal recourse?
Sir, thank you for accepting me in this show. First of all, we are in a very we are in confusion that what we are going to do in our life, because we have participated in a government job. That is government job for us in West Bengal. We have participated in a government job. That is schools are conducted by commission. Given my written examination, Then I have participated in my interview. Then I had document verification. Then I got my appointment letter and recommendation letter and appointment letter and joined accordingly. So I have gone through a process. What should be done? A student, as a student, I did my duty. I legally filled up my form and joined my school with the process. So I thought that I was in a secure service, and I made my life better, and I have a lifestyle now. So I'm habituated with my lifestyle. So we had all of them. I am a representative of untainted teachers of West Bengal. There are 26,000 teachers and non-teaching staffs who had joined schools by this recruitment. And I am one of those teachers who are 20,000 or 19,000 teachers and non-teaching staffs. Those who don't have any allegations against us. There are many categories of irregularities or corruptions. But we did not have any allegation against
All right.
us.
Habibullah, I understand the point that you're mentioning,
is
that you feel that you've not been involved in anything. Why should you be targeted? Interrupting only because I'm out of time and we've got another important discussion coming up. I'd like to thank my panelists here.